Have you ever sort of looked at the top of a big company, the board of directors, and really wondered what actually goes on in there?
Hmm.
They're the ones making these huge decisions, setting the direction, and they're ultimately responsible. But what does that truly involve day to day?
It's a really critical area and, yeah, often a bit mysterious. Understanding the board is just fundamental to getting your head around corporate governance,
Which is?
which is basically how companies are directed and controlled to deliver value over the long term.
Exactly. So today, we're diving deep, using a comprehensive study text on corporate governance as our guide, basically giving you a shortcut to being really well informed on this.
Hmm.
We'll unpack the roles or responsibilities directors have, look at how boards are structured, the impact of diversity, which is huge, now spotlight, non-executive directors, and even, peek into how leaders are developed and paid.
And there might be a few surprises along the way.
Definitely. Okay, let's kick off right at the start. We know directors manage a company, broadly speaking, but what are the core legal and ethical duties that really define their role, and how does that shape the board itself?
That's the perfect place to start. It's much more than just attending meetings. A director is legally tasked with managing the company's affairs.
Okay.
Together, they form the board, and their number one duty is ensuring good corporate governance. That means acting in good faith, always in the company's best interests, and, crucially, with reasonable skill and care.
Our sources, like the UK Corporate Governance Code, which is a pretty solid benchmark, even globally, lay out some fascinating roles. I mean, beyond just strategy, what are some of the maybe less obvious but critical things they're responsible for, especially setting that ethical tone?
Yeah, great question. Because it goes beyond just the numbers. Obviously, they provide entrepreneurial leadership, set strategic aims, make sure the company performs. But they also have to select and, evaluate the top brass, the CEO, the chairman. They establish internal controls for managing risk. And really importantly, they set the values for the entire organization.
And that links to the tone at the top, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Tone at the top.
What does that mean in practice?
It's all about how the leadership, the board, senior managers, creates the ethical climate at work. The text really emphasizes this. If the top managers value ethics and integrity, employees generally will too.
Makes sense.
But if the focus is purely on hitting targets, no matter how, then employees might feel pressured to cut corners, or worse, commit fraud. People tend to follow their boss's lead, basically.
Like setting the company's moral compass.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a massive job. Are there common challenges or barriers that boards often run into?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not always easy. The sources point out a few common ones. Boards rely a lot on reports from management, right?
Which naturally might sometimes gloss over problems. If meetings aren't very frequent, there's less chance for directors to really dig in and challenge management.
I see.
Plus, you can get situations with a very strong, forceful CEO who maybe dominates discussions, and it can be awkward, can it, for directors to objectively critique the performance of a CEO they themselves appointed. It's tricky.
Definitely a delicate balance. Okay, moving from the core purpose, let's talk about diversity. It gets a lot of attention now. What does diversity actually mean in the boardroom, and why is it way more than just, looking good?
Right, it's far more than just optics. Boardroom diversity covers that whole range of differences, visible and non-visible. So race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, disability, but also things like different professional backgrounds, ways of thinking, beliefs.
Okay.
And managing it well means actively using those differences to build a really productive environment where all that talent gets fully used.
The stats in our sources were pretty eye-opening. Like 2010, women were only 12.5% of FTSE 100 directors. And the Higgs review on NEDs found they were mostly white, middle-aged men from similar backgrounds. What's the actual impact of that kind of sameness? What are companies losing out on?
Yeah, those numbers really spell it out. When boards are too similar, they risk groupthink. They just don't see things from enough angles.
Right.
So companies miss out big time. Diverse boards bringing in different life experiences, different perspectives. They simply make better, more robust decisions. They understand diverse customers better, tap into a wider talent pool, and it definitely boosts the company's reputation with investors and the public.
So it's a real business advantage.
Absolutely. That guideline for the Aviva chairman selecting NEDs with no crooks, no cronies, no cowards, it speaks volumes about needing genuine independence and variety.
So, for a company that really wants to get this right, what are the practical steps? Our sources mentioned some concrete recommendations.
Yeah, there are clear actions. Lord Abersock's 2011 recommendations, for instance, were quite direct. Set actual percentage targets for women on boards, like the FTSE 100, aiming for 25% by 2015.
Okay, targets.
Require companies to actually disclose their diversity numbers, not just for the board, but lower down too. And embed diversity policies with measurable goals right into the governance codes. It needs a proactive effort, often led by the nominations committee, to look beyond the usual circles, bring in entrepreneurs, academics, people from public service.
Cast a wider net, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, clear steps. Now let's shift to how these boards are actually put together. Our sources talk about two main structures, unitary and two-tier. Can you walk us through those?
Sure. So the two-tier system, you find that a lot in places like France and Germany. It often grew out of things like co-determination,
Which is?
the right for workers to have a say in decisions that affect them, and also often closer links between companies and banks, who might be big shareholders. That history kind of encourages broader stakeholder input at the top.
So in that two-tier setup, there's a clear separation.
That's the key feature. You usually have a management board, mostly executives,
Right.
running the day-to-day show,
Okay. Yeah.
and then above them, a supervisory board. Their job is strategic oversight. They appoint, advise, and monitor the management board. And this supervisory board often includes employee reps, other stakeholders. It gives them a formal seat at the table.
Right. What are the upsides and downsides of splitting it like that?
Well, the big plus is that clear division between managing and overseeing on behalf of owners or shareholders. You get stakeholder involvement baked in, and often more independence and oversight because they're not bogged down in daily operations. But it can sometimes dilute power, maybe isolate the supervisory board from what's really happening on the ground. You can even get friction or agency problems between the two boards if they're not aligned. And yeah, it can add a layer of bureaucracy, potentially slowing things down.
Okay. And the other model, the unitary board, more common in the UK and US.
Right, the unitary board. That's one single board with both executive directors and non-executive directors, or NEDs.
And the advantages there?
The strengths are you get the NED's expertise directly involved in strategy and oversight. They share equal responsibility, which can lead to more balanced, less extreme decisions. And it can boost investor confidence because there's that constant independent oversight mixed in with management, potentially catching issues like fraud earlier. It's about finding that balance within one group.
Okay, that makes sense. So building on that unitary board idea, let's really zoom in on those non-executive directors, the NEDs. They're not running things daily, but our sources list 4 really key roles for them. What are those?
Yeah, NEDs have this unique independent perspective. Their 4 main jobs are strategy contributing, challenging the strategic direction, scrutiny, holding the execs accountable for performance,
Okay.
risk, making sure internal controls are solid, and people overseeing appointments, pay, and succession planning for the top team. They're like the independent watchdogs on the board.
Independent watchdogs. Oh, like that. So not managing, but overseeing shaping strategy. What actually makes an NED good at that job? What makes them effective?
Being an effective NED is it's quite demanding. They need to build trust with the executive to really understand the business.
Right.
But then use that understanding to challenge effectively, intelligently. They have to be well-informed about the company, the industry, the whole environment. They need proper induction, ongoing development. They must demand good, timely information and fundamentally uphold high ethical standards and push for strong governance.
That independence seems absolutely central. Our sources say boards should aim for about half independent NEDs, not counting the chair. And there's even a senior independent director role as a direct contact for shareholders. What can compromise that crucial independence?
You're spot on. Independence is everything. Threats, well, things like having worked in the same industry for a long time brings knowledge, sure, but maybe biases too. But the big one, the absolute no-no in many codes, is cross-directorships. That's where Director A sits on Director B's board, and Director B sits on Director A's board.
I see.
It creates an obvious conflict of interest. How can you objectively scrutinize someone who might be scrutinizing you next week? It just kills impartiality. It becomes about mutual back-scratching, not oversight.
Yeah, makes the watchdog role impossible. So besides independence, what are the general pros and cons of having NEDs?
Well, the pros are significant. Their monitoring function, especially on key committees like pay, bringing in outside expertise and perspectives, boosting the company's image with regulators and investors, improving shareholder communication, and providing that sort of disciplinary check, maybe during takeovers.
Okay. And the downsides?
Downsides can include potential lack of unity if trust between execs and non-execs is poor. Sometimes there are genuine concerns about finding enough high-quality, truly independent NEDs. And interestingly, their legal liability is the same as executives, but their pay is often much lower, which might put some good people off.
Interesting point on liability. Okay, let's move right to the very top. Chairman and CEO. Our sources are really clear that splitting these roles is vital for good governance, prevents unfettered power. Why is that separation so critical?
It's absolutely fundamental. Like the UK code says, no individual should have unfettered power of decision. Simple as that.
Right.
Having one person as both CEO and chair concentrates way too much power. They're effectively their own boss, marking their own homework. The division of responsibilities needs to be crystal clear, written down, agreed by the whole board.
So how do the roles differ? What does each one actually do?
Okay, the chairman, their main job is leading the board and making sure it's effective in setting and implementing strategy. They manage the board's agenda, chair the meetings, make sure NEDs contribute properly, and they're the main link between the board and the shareholders. They guard the governance process.
Got it. And the CEO?
The CEO is responsible for running the company and delivering the performance based on the strategy the board sets. They implement policies, manage operations day to day, handle resources, build a management team, put controls in place, and they report to the board on all of this. It's about execution.
Makes sense. Given they're both such key roles, what are the arguments for and against actually splitting them?
Well, the argument for splitting is that clear division of labor. Chairman focuses on governance and shareholder representation. CEO focuses on management and performance.
Yeah.
Reduces conflicts of interest.
Okay.
Arguments against sometimes say it risks creating two power centers, potential conflict instead of unified leadership. Finding two people with the deep company knowledge needed can be tough. And, just human nature, potential clashes between two strong personalities.
That bright core example in the materials really highlights the risks, doesn't it? Combined CEO chair for years, an insider takes over, pushes aggressive strategies, board full of executives just cheers him on, while investors raise concerns about risk and sustainability, and he just ignores them. What does that case tell us?
Oh, Brightco is textbook. It shows exactly what can go wrong. You've got the lack of separation, the insider succession without enough independent challenge, the board dominated by executives, only 3 NEDs out of 10,
Right.
no proper channel for shareholders to voice concerns effectively, and a strategy that clearly needed fresh external expertise to properly assess the risks. An effective board there would need a total reset. Focus on shareholder interests, critically monitor performance and risk, actively advise on strategy, robust succession planning, not just acting as a rubber stamp.
It really underscores that getting the right structure and people is just the start. They need support, right? Directors aren't just thrown in the deep end. Tell us about induction and ongoing development.
Absolutely. That's where induction and CPD continuing professional development are vital. A proper formal induction is crucial, especially for new entities or outside execs. It needs to be comprehensive, tailored to the individual, giving a balanced view of the company, its strategy, markets, people, key relationships. Usually the company secretary runs this.
So way more than just handing them an employee handbook.
Oh, much more. The aim is to get them up to speed fast, communicate the vision and culture, clarify all their duties, procedures, basically make them productive board members quickly. The pack could include everything from legal duties, strategy docs, accounts, past board minutes, company history, key policies, the works.
Ensures they can contribute meaningfully from day one, and CPD is just the ongoing version.
Exactly. Things change fast: markets, regulations, technology. So companies need to provide resources for directors to keep their knowledge and skills sharp. The chairman should really lead on spotting development needs, both for the board as a unit and for individuals. The company secretary often helps facilitate this.
And the NEDs themselves.
NEDs absolutely need to commit time to this themselves, too. It's about making sure they have the skills to tackle new challenges, keeping the whole board effective, and supporting their own professional growth.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. Beyond being effective, directors have strict legal duties. What are the basics there, and what does unlimited liability mean for them?
Right. The legal duties are the absolute floor. They stem from a fiduciary relationship, meaning they act in trust for the company and its owners, the shareholders.
Like a trustee.
Precisely. Now, while the company usually has limited liability, a director's personal liability can be unlimited if they breach those duties or act negligently. Their personal assets could potentially be on the line, even for things they delegated. Key duties are acting in good faith, exercising reasonable skill and care. Breaching these can lead to serious trouble. Civil lawsuits, personal liability for losses, even criminal charges for things like not filing accounts, or, of course, insider trading.
Ah, yes, insider trading. Always gets attention. What exactly is it, legally speaking?
Insider trading, or insider dealing, is basically buying or selling shares when you have confidential, price-sensitive information that the public doesn't have.
Okay.
If you're a director doing this, you're violating that fiduciary duty. You're using company information, which isn't yours to use, for personal profit. It's a definite conflict of interest.
The source had those interesting examples. Chairman buys shares before a takeover is announced. Clear insider trading.
Yeah.
But someone just overhearing a CEO in a bar and buying shares, generally not insider trading. That distinction is key, isn't it?
It really is. It comes down to that closer connection and the breach of a specific duty owed to the company. The chairman has that direct duty. The person in the bar, while maybe acting unethically, doesn't typically have that legal connection or duty to the company, so it usually doesn't cross the line into illegal insider trading.
Fascinating nuance. Okay, let's tackle the topic everyone's always curious about. How much directors get paid? Remuneration, it's often controversial. How should companies approach paying directors fairly, and who decides?
Remuneration pay, bonuses, benefits, it's definitely a hot-button issue. The Greenberg report back in '95 really focused attention on linking pay to actual performance, trying to rebuild shareholder trust.
Right.
That led to the formal Remuneration Committee, which is standard practice now. It should be made up of independent NEDs. Their job is to design a pay policy that attracts, retains, and genuinely motivates directors to act in the long-term interests of shareholders. It needs to be independent, transparent, use challenging targets, and crucially, avoid paying more than necessary.
So, what typically goes into a director's pay package designed by this committee?
Usually starts with a basic salary. That reflects the job itself, the individual's experience, performance, what the market rate is.
Okay.
Then you have the performance-related bits. Could be short-term annual bonuses, often tied to things like profit targets or earnings per share EPS, or long-term incentives, most commonly executive stock options.
Stock options seem powerful. How do they work, and what are the rules to make sure they actually align execs with shareholders?
Right, stock options give executives the right to buy company shares later at a price fixed today. If the share price goes up because the company does well, they can buy cheap and sell for a profit.
So it links their wealth to the share price.
Theoretically, yes, but there are important rules. Options need shareholder approval. The performance targets attached must be genuinely stretching. They should be phased in over time, not granted in one huge chunk. They can't be offered at a discount to the market price. And they shouldn't usually be exercisable for at least 3 years to encourage that long-term view.
Okay. What about other benefits, the perks?
Yeah, you get pension contributions, usually just on the basic salary, though. And benefits in kinds,
Yeah.
company cars, private health insurance, that sort of thing. Common enough?
But some payments cause real controversy.
Absolutely. Things like guaranteed bonuses, regardless of performance, or massive golden hellos just for joining, like that Tesco example, often attract criticism. Loyalty bonuses can too, especially if the director leaves shortly after getting one. And loans to directors. Generally a big no-no in most places for obvious conflict of interest reasons.
It definitely feels like a sensitive area. The source even noted the UK governance code has more detail on pay than almost anything else.
That's right. It reflects the view that excess needs to be reined in, and that huge payouts are viewed very dimly by everyone except those benefiting. There's intense pressure legal rules on disclosure, ethical concerns from the public about fairness, especially when companies aren't doing well. Plus the competitive need to attract talent and regulatory demands. It's a real balancing act.
So it's not just what they earn, but how and why. What about the NEDs? Is their pay performance-based too?
Crucial difference here, no. NED pay is typically a basic fee, maybe some shares, but performance-related pay for NEDs is generally frowned upon.
Why is that?
Because it could compromise their independence. If their pay depends on hitting certain targets, how can they objectively challenge management about those same targets? Organizations like the ICGN, the International Corporate Governance Network, strongly advise against it. Their role is independent oversight, representing shareholders, so their pay structure needs to support that independence. It's usually set by the full board and shareholders.
Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground. A really comprehensive deep dive into the whole world of corporate boards,
We really have.
from their basic duties, that subtle tone at the top, the strong case for diversity, different structures, the vital role of NEDs, splitting the chair and CEO, right through to induction, development, and that complex beast of remuneration.
Hopefully you listening now have a much clearer view of the complexity, the huge responsibility, and just how much impact these groups have on companies. Whether you invest, work there, or are just interested, it helps decode who's pulling the levers.
Absolutely. And maybe it leaves us with this final thought to ponder. With all these detailed codes, committees, rules trying to ensure good governance,
Yep.
how much still comes down to the people involved, that tone at the top, the personal integrity of each director? How much do we or should we trust the individuals in charge, and what really works best to hold them accountable, even when the financial results look good on paper? What really stands out to you about the power and the potential pitfalls inside that boardroom?